Welcome. Welcome. What is up? Welcome to the Mixer. I'm your host, RC. I'm joined by my buddy here, Jeff. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Recovering from Vegas this weekend, but doing really well.
You know it's good for recovering from Vegas? PF
What?
Chang's. It is a PF Chang's Monday.
I almost stopped in there. There was one in one of the casinos. I thought of you. I
Ooh,
think I even messaged you at the time that I
which
just
one is
passed
it?
it.
Is it the
I think
MGM?
it's in the Mirage.
Damn it.
I think that's where we were. I'm not 100% sure, though.
Well, I miss Vegas. How is Vegas right now with COVID?
It depends on what you want.
Huh.
It's cool. Like everything's open, like the casinos. They're lower capacity, I believe. I think it's like 30%, something like that.
Uh-huh.
So like you're not like missing out on anything. The downside though is there's no real shows going on. So like if you're someone who goes to Vegas for like all the music acts and stuff like that, like
Yeah.
you're not having a good time. But
Gotcha.
if you
Gotcha.
like to gamble, you like to do all that stuff, you can still have a lot of fun.
You hear that? The Mixer. We have boots on the ground in the betting hot spots, giving you live, up to date reports. Where do you get that? Anyway, this week's tilts. Jeff, do you have any tilts?
I mean, it's my weekly tilt in our home league where I
Thoughts and
can't
prayers.
catch any kind of break. But it is what it is. For all the breaks that I caught last year, kind of serves me right that it's going wrong this year.
You're gonna have to give me updates on the historical averages once the season rolls around. I know you were up at the top. I'm
I'll,
curious if that's shifted.
I will let you know.
So my tilts. Of course, I have tilts. It's kind of my thing. The for the brand parlay of Arsenal, Bengals, and Chargers money lines. Oof,
Almost.
rough final leg. The Chargers lose by 1. They were the only ones favored in that parlay. On a $5, I put a $5 bet. It would have paid like $81,
There you
and
go.
it didn't. It didn't hit. I mean, Arsenal wins 1-0. The Bengals upset the Titans. All the Chargers have to do is hold off the terrible Drew Lock led Broncos. And even watching that game, I was like, there's no way Drew freaking Lock can bring them back here. I
Well,
was
he
like,
did.
yeah. And then they had what, 2 or 3 chunk plays and just, then they stopped them. And then there's a pass interference in the end zone. Anyway, maybe we'll get to more of that game later, but yeah, man. This bookmaker account I opened maybe the death of me because normally I would just laugh that Chargers loss off, but now I'm like, have more of a vested interest.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you're betting on the Chargers is probably part of the problem.
It's for the pod, man. It'll give us content. And look, I mean, we're week 2 into this thing, and it's already given us content. So yeah, I'm investing in our
That's it.
material is what I'm doing.
There you go. I appreciate that.
There's always next week. All right. In a long running tilt of mine, Rob versus Time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of turning the corner. I think I believe I've said that as far as the body's been feeling good. Went on a run yesterday.
Okay.
The body wasn't feeling that great.
Ooh.
However, I had a paradigm shift, a shift in my outlook on this because my whole life I've been training for, I mean, I guess nothing besides when I was, playing sports. But, I'm training for the moment, I'm
Okay.
just trying to increase my bench, trying to decrease my running time. That's been my focus. I'm now shifting my focus to to 17 years in the future. I'm no longer training for present day Rob. I'm training for 50-year-old Rob. That's what I'm doing.
There you go.
It's just I just want to, I don't really know what the purpose of me being in shape at 50 is, other than to say I'm in shape at 50. I don't expect to be doing triathlons or anything,
the
but
purpose is to live longer, right?
yeah, that, but I mean, we're in a simulation anyway, so
Sean decides your fate anyway.
yeah. So little control over that aspect of it, but yeah, I think it's just, my daughter, she's going to be 17, 18 around the time that I'm 50. So if any suitors come
you need to be able to defend.
Yeah, I gotta at least, be able to show them up in whatever, whatever aspect they think they can try me on.
So I'm actually really glad you brought up this like exercising thing. So I joined a gym again recently. And I'm not a huge fan of treadmill running, right? But I think it's great to get started because you can set a pace and just like work off that pace, right? Well, so I'm a very strong believer in kind of like HIIT cardio in a lot of ways. Or one of the other things I tend to do is I will run a mile kind of as fast as I can, and just constantly try to lower that time, right, to improve cardio. And then once you get to a certain point, you obviously add in like a second mile or stuff like that. But so going to the gym, you have to wear the mask, right? And I used to wear gaiters all the time because they're easy. We had a bunch around the house, so it's easy to throw on, right? Well, recently I've shifted to wearing an actual mask. And I have to say, when you're pushing yourself and you're trying to run faster and you're taking deep breaths, right, trying to catch your breath as you go, much prefer gaiter over mask.
Yeah.
Gonna be completely honest there. Makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have a neck gaiter for my runs. They may or may not be effective at all. I've heard that they are not. But it's covering. I mean, it's more for the people around you than for yourself, I think, is the issue with the gaiters. It might catch, what's coming out, but not filter out what you might be breathing in. If that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm not a fucking scientist. Do not get your medical advice from us.
Please don't.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any advice you get from us, it may be to like bet Lewis Hamilton. That's about the only solid thing you could probably
that's honestly, I was looking at that at the sportsbook this weekend, and it's probably not even worth it. I mean, he didn't even qualify on the poll this weekend, and he was like a minus 350 favorite at William Hill.
Yeah, I placed my bet too soon. I should have placed it after he got beat out for pole, but I still won that bet a little bit.
Yeah, I was looking into it because I was like, oh, maybe I'll throw Verstappen in there depending on what his odds were. I'm glad I didn't at this point, but it was a thought. So.
Good deal. 2020, the year of health. Glad you're getting out there, Jeff. Under Armour makes a training mask. I don't know how effective it is or isn't, but just an idea. I've been avoiding the gyms, so I got some resistance bands. Dude, they are money. I am loving my resistance bands. I don't have to go anywhere, and I could do pretty much every workout. It's not as rewarding as throwing up weights, but still gets the job done, and it feels more. It kind of feels less likely to cause injury because it's more of like a bendy thing instead of I don't know, and it's a constant resistance, whereas with weights you kind of can like really like heft it up, and anyway.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic. I'm on like week 3 of band training, and it's going well. Just the
go.
legs are not so great, but that's okay. Just got to maintain till 50.
Exactly.
So, yeah, maybe less updates on that, but yeah, just future suitors of my daughter. I'm playing the long game. I'm getting ready. Anywho, let's get into some football, shall we?
Let's do it.
Week 8. Not the greatest week of football, I would say, but there were some entertaining games. First off, the Vikings upset the Packers 28-22. This is what, the second week in a row the Packers have kind of dropped the ball because they got smoked by the Bucks. Or they're coming off a bye.
2 out of 3.
Well, I think they had the bye last week, didn't they? Or maybe I'm misremembering. No, I'm getting it wrong. I'm thinking of another stat that somebody said that the Packers are like 0-7 in daylight savings times games or something just ridiculous like that. So that made me think they had a bye. But anyway, yeah, they lost to the Bucks. I guess that was 2 weeks ago, and then they won last week, and then now they lose again to the Vikes. Dalvin Cook just went absolutely crazy. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on this game?
I mean, not a whole lot. Devontae Adams had a huge game. Packers could really use some more offensive weapons. They probably, I don't have an opinion on Jordan Love, but I'm sure they would possibly like to have that pick back. But yeah, this was a different Vikings team than we've seen all year. And I think big wonder for them. I'm not too worried about the Packers. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins was like 8 for 14 or something for 140 yards, and 50 of them came from a Dalvin Cook screen pass. So
right.
Cousins having his ideal game where, he's accounting for basically 90 yards of offense. So, I mean, that just kind of tells you what to expect from the Vikings. Exactly. Maybe something that many didn't expect was my B team, Cincinnati Bengals, upset the Titans 31-20. Just punched them in the mouth. Joe Burrow, very elusive in the pocket, had a few plays where he scrambled around. I was actually able to watch the condensed game on NFL Game Pass, to which now I am a subscriber. Hashtag.
There you go.
Hashtag team grind the tape. Which I am loving, by the way. If you have the chance, if that special someone in your life is a male who enjoys football, I recommend this as a gift. Does not have
to be a male. Could just be anyone in your life who likes football.
Good point. If you have a football lover, thank you, Jeff. In your life.
This was actually the surprise of the week, I think, more than anything. I think, the Titans losing to the Steelers last week, it happens. But to come out 2 weeks in a row and put up similar performances, especially for a team that looked really, really good, and the Bengals aren't terrible, but they're not good either, right? Kind of surprising the Titans didn't. I figured the score would have been flipped. I figured it would have been like 31-20 Titans.
Yeah. The Titans turned over the ball in the red zone at least once. I was watching the condensed game passively, so I didn't get to focus in on it completely, but I know early in the game, I believe there was an interception in the red zone. Derrick Henry was conceding some touches to some guy off the practice squad, number 45. I can't remember his name.
Dante Foreman, I believe.
So I'm curious if he's not 100%. I know he still went over 100 yards and he looked good. I just don't know why they're not grinding Henry more to where.
they're trying to save him.
Maybe, I guess, but it backfired. They lost 31-20. So
Yeah.
Titans back-to-back losses. Still look like a playoff team, but obviously having some mid-season struggles.
Right.
Speaking of mid-season struggles, the Steelers took on the Ravens and took them down at home, 28-24. Steelers only unbeaten team, I believe. Are they? They're 7-0. They had their bye already.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
believe they did.
they're unbeaten. That was a close game. It was pretty back and forth. I was able to watch that one as well on the condensed game. Lamar Jackson threw a pick six early in the game, and he's
Like
been having
right
some
away.
struggles. What's wrong with Lamar, Jeff? They can't get the passing game going. They can't get the running game going. Is it
So
what's going on?
I haven't looked too hard into it personally, but a few people I follow on Twitter were having this conversation, and one of the things they mentioned was that um, the Ravens let a decent tight end go in the offseason. I believe it was Hayden Hurst went to the Falcons. And for a team that runs multiple tight ends on like 50+% of their plays,
That 12 personnel, right?
that can be a tough loss. Also, I think we're seeing the lack of a true like receiving threat. While Marquise Brown is awesome, he is not Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
He's not a number one receiver, at least as of right now. And you're seeing that like, they're trying to get him the ball, but he's struggling to get open.
Yeah. It's more
Or
like the
Lamar's
John
not hitting
Brown
him.
type.
Yeah, Lamar just, I mean, the other thing too is, Lamar was never going to repeat what he did last year. That was just, it's an outlier year. Not saying he can't still be a top 5 QB, right? But he was never going to be 450 plus fantasy point Lamar again. The other thing too is they've had a bunch of injuries. They've got like 3 or 4 offensive linemen that have been hurt, and now Ronnie Staley, who might be the best offensive lineman in the league, is out for the year.
Yeah, I saw that.
So they just had some injuries, and it happens. Last year they were really good. This year they've still been pretty good, but overall not nearly as good or complete as they were last year.
The Ravens could benefit from a trade. I'm curious if
Good.
I don't know what their cap situation is like, but you were mentioning how Marquise Brown isn't really that true. Number one, he's more of, I guess, the deep threat, the big play guy. He needs somebody swallowing up the coverage. I'm thinking somebody like Amari Cooper, who has a ridiculous deal, I believe, with Dallas, and Dallas has CeeDee Lamb,
Yeah.
and Michael Gallup.
I mean,
So
if I were Dallas, this year's kind of a lost year at this point. I would be willing to give up some stuff, especially if teams were going to offer you decent returns.
yeah, Dallas is just they're in a bad place. They're in a bad spot right now. But
They are.
I'm curious if the Ravens make a move, or if they're just gonna roll with what they got. But the way they look right now, I mean, they couldn't beat the Steelers at home. Very unlikely that they could get through the Chiefs either, if you're thinking playoffs. So
Right.
Lamar's still young, but it doesn't look like it's the Ravens' year at this point.
Right.
Moving on, the Dolphins at home versus the Rams. The Rams have been making a bunch of East Coast trips. They've been winning those games. That comes to an end. They lose to the Dolphins 28-17. The turning point in this game was, I think it was first quarter, second quarter. either way, first
Was the
half.
fumble return for a touchdown?
Yeah. It was 7-7 at that point. And the Rams were going in to score. I don't think they were inside the 20 yet, but they were right there. I think it was like a 78-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown. Goff got blown up, and that was pretty much all she wrote. I think the Dolphins scored on the next drive as well, and the Rams just couldn't mount a comeback. Is there a more frustrating team to watch than the Rams, Jeff?
No, not really right now. I don't blame them for what they did a couple years ago. They looked like they were on the way to being essentially what the Chiefs are now.
Yeah.
And they went all in, right? They traded away first-round picks. They signed guys to big deals. And now they're kind of, I think, paying the price for that. In the sense of they had to lock in Goff to a big contract, and we've seen Goff isn't a world beater, right? He's a good quarterback, but he's not great. And depending on who's around him, we've also seen that, Robert Woods is solid. Cooper Kupp is decent. I saw a thing the other day. Cooper Kupp had the second fewest receiving yards ever for someone who received over 20 targets in a game on Sunday. I think it was like 90 or something like that, or 100. He might have gotten 100 even. Like, if you get 20 targets, you generally get a decent amount of yards. And also, by the way, the number one player on that list is Devontae Adams with like 75 yards on 20 targets one game.
Oh, dang.
But yeah, the Rams are really frustrating. It's also frustrating too because they have some exciting players, and like Cam Akers, who they drafted, who everyone was excited about, who seemed like he was going to be their number one, and then he gets hurt and really hasn't done much since he came back. They also have arguably the best defensive player in the league still, in Aaron Donald, and I don't know. This game, if you take out the fumble for a touchdown, is pretty much a tie game, right? If you give the Rams a field goal there, they lose 21-20 at that point. If they score a touchdown, they win 24-21. So that play, like you said, was really the huge difference in the game. Also for the Dolphins, I didn't watch this full game, but Tua did not look particularly great.
No.
Granted, it's his first game since he had that hip injury that was really bad. And he's likely got the rest of the year, if not longer, to show that he's a good quarterback. And the Rams defense isn't the easiest to play first start, but
right.
You kind of want him to have a better start than he had.
He had something like 90 yards passing, but there's more to come from Tua.
Right.
Rams ran 90 plays, I think 91 plays, and they only scored 17 points. They're just all these little short passes, and this is just not pretty. This is not pretty. Anyway, since I invested heavily in them in fantasy the last 2 years, it's been tough to watch my players. Moving on, the Bills take down their AFC East opponents, the Patriots, 24-21. The Patriots had a chance late in this. Cam fumbled, I believe. So Patriots just not looking great. Are they even a playoff team at this point?
I mean, I think right now they're on the outside looking in. But you never know because there's 7 teams in the playoffs this year. So it's going to be, at least one team's going to get in that probably shouldn't. And they, could still turn around. They didn't look terrible in this game. But they also don't look very good. They also don't have a lot of weapons at their disposal. Their top 2 receivers were out, N'Keal Harry and Julian Edelman. So Cam was kind of throwing to, I believe they actually only had 4 receivers suited up for the game. Cam's throwing to guys kind of off the practice squad to an extent. And they still made it a close game with a chance to win it at the end. If Cam doesn't fumble that away, they at the very least probably tie it and go to overtime. Could still win it. The Bills did what they had to do, but this wasn't a pretty game by them either. Josh Allen seems to have come back to earth after his amazing first 4 or 5 games, whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, I do think the Bills are the better team right now. I think the Patriots, I don't know. They're close. They're not too far away, but they also don't have a lot that they're working with. So
Damon Harris looked pretty good. He didn't get that much work. I think he got 20 snaps, but he went over 100 yards. He had a 20-yard touchdown run. So maybe they get him more involved. Definitely not what Pats fans are used to. Thoughts and prayers. Right. Thoughts and prayers for the long-suffering Patriots fans.
If you believe Belichick, they're using this year as kind of an in-between year. He's made the comment earlier this week or after the game yesterday that they are basically suffering this year because of some salary cap stuff they've done the last few years in terms of like getting guys on the team and finagling things. So he said this year is kind of a reset, which is why they don't have the depth that they normally do, which makes sense to an extent, right? But yeah.
We'll have to see how they rebound.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders beat the Cleveland Browns 16-6. The new high-powered Cleveland offense without OBJ didn't amount to much. Jeff, what happened in this game? I know it was windy.
There was a lot of people talking about how the weather was going to affect this game. I think winds were over 20 miles an hour. I know from things I've read in the past, there's certain things weather-wise that have an effect or don't have an effect, such as rain, which a lot of people have dug into, and rain doesn't really affect passing or scoring because they switch the balls out so often. Like they never truly get like super slick or damp or wet.
Plus, you got that Phillip Rivers stick-em on the on the little towels.
But wind is something that I've seen kind of mixed reviews on, and I think it really only matters once it gets to a certain point. But it certainly seemed to see like it was at a certain point in this game yesterday. But there were a couple plays. I don't remember every play in the game. I remember Njoku, the Browns were driving, and he dropped a very easy 3rd down conversion. Like he was wide open. Baker hit him in the numbers, and he dropped it, which ended a drive. I'm pretty sure Kareem did the same thing at one point, if I'm remembering correctly. So I think this game was more about the Browns hurting themselves based on the little that I watched of it. Because, if you can't convert those 3rd downs, especially when they're easy, you're never really going to win a game like this when you need to grind it out.
Yeah. The Browns still, what's their record? 5-3?
5-3 now. Yeah.
They're still in a good spot for the playoffs. But the play needs to improve. Otherwise, the first round exit looks possible, or maybe even, just missing out. Speaking of missing out, I mean, next on my list here was to go over the Chargers game, which I really don't want to revisit.
We don't have to touch on it. I'll just say this. It was best case scenario for the Chargers. You get good play from your highly drafted quarterback. Your offense looks pretty good, and you lose the game at the end. Ideally, you don't want to lose games at the end, but they're not making the playoffs. They're not winning the Super Bowl this year. Lose games like this so you get a high draft pick so you can continue to restock that team.
Yeah. Normally I'd be on board with that assessment, but since I lost that cash, it stings. And I was actually more nervous about this game than I was about the Tampa Bay game, about the Saints game, about the Chiefs game, because in those games you don't really have expectations, right? There,
Right.
you just want a good showing, really, especially in a season like this where, like you said, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. They might sneak into the playoffs. They might even be able to win one game, but they're not gonna make any real noise. They just don't have the bodies. But division game on the road, they're favored. It just set up for the classic Chargers debacle, heartbreak, and yeah, losing at the last second after a pass interference call at the goal line, giving up an untimed down, blowing a late lead. Well executed. Well executed. Just the way it was drawn up. Thanks, Sean. Let's move on. The Saints beat the Bears. I saw 0 of this game. I can't believe it went in overtime. 26-23. Did you watch this, Jeff?
Not at all.
It
Had
overlapped.
zero interest in this game.
Yeah, samesies. It overlapped with the Charger game, which is why I didn't see it. Same thing with the next game. The Seahawks beat the Niners 37-27. These late, these 1 p.m. West Coast games. I know in the Bears game, their wide receiver Mims, who I had never even heard of before this game, popped a corner in the face for ripping out his mouth guard. That's all I saw from the game.
Yeah, I to be completely honest, the afternoon games, we were driving home from Vegas, so I missed all of them. But I mean, to be brutally honest, I did not care about this game. I didn't even ask for updates while I was on the drive.
Nobody
But
cares about the Bears. Imagine being a Bears fan.
I mean, I don't care about the Saints either, to be honest.
Yeah. Good point.
It's kind of one of those games where I think the outcome makes sense, the Saints beating the Bears, but like looking at it, it was closer than I think it probably should have been, because I do think the Saints are a better team than the Bears, but who cares?
Are you team Trubisky or team Foles?
I mean, I'm team neither, but I do think that I would be team Trubisky in the sense of I think when he plays well, he elevates them more than Foles does.
Yeah. A lot of work to do
So
in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I'm Chicago, maybe I just play without a quarterback and just tank this season and get one in the draft.
All right. That wraps up NFL Week 8. We're halfway through the season. Let's talk some World Series, shall we?
Let's do it.
It feels like so long ago. But the Dodgers won. They won Game 6, 3-1. The turning point in this game was Kevin Cash, the Tampa Bay's manager's decision to pull Blake Snell, who was absolutely dealing. I think it was in the 6th inning. He gave up a hit and yanked him. And Mookie was coming up, right? And
he was getting to the top of the lineup.
Yeah, and Mookie, smacks a double down the line. And the runner scores, and I think they let 2 more runs in after that, and that was pretty much the game. What are your thoughts on the manager Kevin Cash's decision to pull Blake Snell when he was on fire?
So I am fully on team process over results.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the regular season, right, you have 162 games or even 60 games like this year, right? I'm team process over results because you have time to let things play out, right? Like sometimes that situation is going to come up, you pull the guy, you're going to win those. Sometimes you're going to lose them, right? It happens, right? But over the season, it's going to even out to whatever your numbers say usually, right?
Yeah.
But when you're like in the World Series, your season is literally on the line, right? Like you lose the game and you're done. Like you're not saving Blake Snell for anything, right? Like pitching, and this is his last game, right? Like he's not coming back for the next game. I am on team let your guy go, and especially when he's dealing like that. Now, if he'd been struggling a little bit, and it's like maybe an inning earlier, and he's at that point, maybe then we talk about like, okay, he wasn't pitching great. He was, you know what I mean? But we're talking, middle of the fifth inning. Like this isn't even deep for a start. He's only at 73 pitches. I say let him face Mookie. If Mookie gets a hit off of him, then take him out, right? But you got to at least give him the chance, I think. Like I said, over the course of a season, 162 games, I get it. The decisions play out. You play the probabilities. It's going to work out for you most of the time. You're not in that situation here, right? You're in really a one-game situation, not even a two-game situation, because the second game is not guaranteed. You have to win this game. And
Right.
I just think you ride with your guys at that point. And if Snell gets blown up and, you let him pitch to the next three guys and he gives up 3 straight home runs, well, hey, it happens. I just think that, that's one of those decisions where I think you're trusting the process in the wrong situation because the situation is different, right? Like it's not mid-July, right, where you've got 3 months left. You've got 5 innings left, 4 innings left, or whatever.
Yeah. I can't imagine being in that position, being in the manager's shoes to make that decision. I was surprised when he went out there to pull him. For those who maybe do not understand why he was pulled at all, is it would have been the third time through the lineup. He was on his pitch count wasn't too high. He was on like pitch 74 or something, which a starter, it's pretty good. Pretty good to be in the 6th inning on your 70 or pitches in the 70s. So his arm should be good. He had struck out Betts and I think Seager. The lineup that was coming up, he had struck him out twice in the previous.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the next 3 batters were 0 for 6 with 6 Ks in the game already.
But the numbers would show the third time through the lineup, batting averages, probabilities of hits go up much higher. It's the third time seeing the pitcher. You should be able to get a better read on his stuff. So bringing in a fresh arm, that's the thinking. Bringing a fresh arm, new stuff, more likely to get the outs. It didn't play out that way, but that's why the decision was made. I appreciate your take, Jeff, on saying your team process during the regular season and then getting a read of the situation and making your decisions kind of greatly come crunch time. What I am tired of, though, is after, on Twitter, after he yanked him, I guess the surface level analytics is saying, why are they pulling him? Why are they pulling him? Or, why did they pull him? It's one thing to have that hindsight analysis. It's another thing to bring ideas on why you wouldn't do it in that situation. Just don't be lazy and just criticize somebody's decision because it didn't work out.
Right. And if this
have
works,
some thoughts behind
Kevin
it.
Cash is thought of as a great move, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And, I guess the reliever who he brought him in for, it's been like a week, already forgotten the guy's name, but he wasn't having such a great postseason. I think he given up a run in every outing. I don't know if that was
Yeah.
just limited to the world's to the final, the World series, or if that was all playoff series. But that's kind of more of the questionable call for me there. But just PSA to the keyboard warriors out there, have slightly better takes because it's kind of tired. Speaking of
Yeah.
tired takes, I am tired of whiny Padre fans. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I follow my fair share of Padre fans on Twitter. We have some in our close unit, but the Dodgers winning the World Series, I mean, people were saying it was worse than what the Padres losing in a World Series. It's like
Oh, people are.
it's acting like their dog died or something with the Dodgers winning. I mean, I don't know. Do you feel the same way? Do you feel the same way as a Yankee fan when the Red Sox win?
No, I mean, I don't like. I'm not that kind of fan that what another team does like that
Uh-huh.
affects me in that way. Like, I enjoy the sport. I root for a team. If my team does well, great. If they don't, okay, it happens, right? Um, I also think people are forgetting. I do get it to an extent. Like, there's a lot of emotion involved. People don't like the Dodgers. It's the little highway rivalry or whatever. But um, the Dodgers are what, three of the last four World Series they've been in, right? Something
Hmm.
like that. And they lost to what, the Astros, right? They were the ones that lost to the Indians after the delay,
Mm.
right? Um, or were they the ones that lost to the Red Sox?
I can't remember the teams that they've lost to. I believe you're thinking of the Indians Cubs series where
Yeah,
the
that's fine.
the
Yeah.
Cubs actually
But
won.
okay. So the Dodgers actually lost to the Red Sox and the Astros, who, if you're a baseball fan, you should remember that both teams from each of those years has been punished for cheating. Um, you could for cheating in those years as
Right.
well, right? Like, we're not just talking general cheating. Like, it was shown that they cheated in both years that both World Series were won. Now, you could make an argument that the Dodgers probably cheated as well, because from the reports I read, there were multiple teams around the league that were involved in doing some similar stuff. So maybe the Dodgers were one of them. I don't know that. I'm not going to say that, but just looking at it, I think the Dodgers more than deserved a World Series at some point, with how good they've been, over the last 4 or 5 years. Uh, Also, I'm a Kershaw fan. I am really happy Kershaw got his World Series ring. He also had an amazing postseason in general. Sub 3 ERA for the postseason. Uh, at least one win in the World Series. I'm not sure if he got two. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think the people that whine about it just take it way too seriously and way too personally, to be honest.
Agreed. Agreed. Root for your team. Don't root for another team suffering or another fan bases suffering. It's low T. It's low T. And we're not proponents of low T here. Um, so, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens in the offseason. Dodgers clearly have been one of the top teams in baseball the past 4 years. They got their win. They deserved it. They were the best team during the regular season. They've been the most consistent team over the last, I mean, like I already said, 4 years. So they got their
Right.
title. Congrats. I'm not happy for the Dodgers by any means. Somewhat happy for, like you said. I do like Mookie. He showed up in the big spot in Game 6. So what I'm looking forward to is the rivalry ahead. Padres are right there, arguably the most exciting team to watch. Tell you, Padres have their the Dodgers are going to be a problem. They're not going anywhere. So if the Padres are going to win, they got to get better. They just have to. So
yeah,
there's going to be some good series coming up. Hopefully the Padres get some pitching, and yeah, on the looks like we're on the verge of a special time in baseball. This season really got my love going for baseball again.
good.
I'm even practicing throwing curveballs and knuckleballs with my Dodgers little toys, her little toy plastic balls. So, I mean, I got some, I got a nice 12-6 motion on my knuckle. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to do, but it's working.
We got to get out and play some wiffle ball at some point.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So, baseball is back. Something I didn't think I would say heading into this season. My love for baseball has grown again. Well, Jeff, that covers our topics. Unless you have anything else you wanted to go over before we get out of here.
Let's see. 2 defensive or special teams touchdowns from the Buccaneers tonight, and other than that, I don't care.
Predictions. Do you have a wager on that, or do you just have the Bucs D?
I have the Bucs D going against our simulation master Sean, and he's up by about 22 points.
Ooh.
So
don't like your chances.
Completely out of the question, though. But I've already chalked it up as a loss.
Yeah. I mean, you got a decent record, so there's still some season left, but it's getting down to it. So that's gonna do it for this week. Don't forget, we are at FC Wine Mixer on all social channels. Join the conversation. Thank you for the support. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and our YouTube channel. You can see my awesome Bengals gear that I'm rocking today. Back-to-back weeks. I need to mix it up. It's just how it's working out for my wardrobe. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Jeff, you ready for some PF Changs?
I'm ready.
Ass kicked on Sunday, PF Changs on Monday. That's how we do. Maybe we'll see you guys later in the week.
See ya.
Later.